Hello and welcome to today's lesson on negative indices. Now I'm just going to start with a few things before I do any questions, just to go over some of the basics to help you understand this. Now I'm going to start off with some things that we already know, okay, and we're actually going to from that develop two rules. So I'm going to start off with, you can get this in your notes if you want. I'm going to start off with some powers that I know can work out. So let's say 2 to the 2, 2 to the 3, I'll do it in black so you can see it better. 2 to the power of 2, 2 to the power of 3, and 2 to the power of 4. And what these are. So we're going to be looking at patterns here. So I know that 2 to the power of 2 means 2 times 2, which I know is equal to 4. Brilliant. 2 to the power of 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, okay, which is going to same as 2 times 2 is 4, times by 2 is 8, not 6. Remember, we're timesing, not adding. 2 times 2 is 4, times by 2 is 8. And 2 to the 4, well, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. And what we're going to do is we're going to move our way down to make these indices negative. So here I've got 4, 3, 2, so the next one is going to be 2 to the 1. Okay, we know that 2 to the 1, we don't have to write that 1, it could have just been written as 2 if we wanted to. We saw that last time in the Laws of Indices video. So 2 to the 1 we know is just 2. Now that brings us on to something that we haven't come across before, and this is anything to the power of 0. So I just want you to see, so we've got 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now what's happening here? What's the rule that's happening? I'm starting with 16, then I go to 8, then I go to 4, then I go to 2. Well, what's happening is here, I'm halving each time, aren't I? Dividing by 2, dividing by 2, dividing by 2. So 16 divided by 2 is 8, 8 divided by 2 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So what is 2 to the power of 0? Well, it's going to be 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Okay? Now this is an important law. We haven't actually come across this yet. Okay, this is really important. Now this works for anything. You can do this with powers of 3, you can do it with powers of 8, you can do it with powers of a, but anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1. Okay, so this is our first law that I want to talk about. We do want to get this down. So the first law is that anything, let's write this down, anything to the power 0 is 1. So this could be anything, as I said. So we know that 2 to the 0 is equal to 1. We know that 3 to the power of 0 is equal to 1. We know that x to the power of 0, even though it's x, doesn't matter, is to the power is equal to 1. We could even say dog to the power of 0. Anything to that power 0 is equal to 1. Okay? And that's the first law, okay? So definitely get that down. So, next up, we are going to, be looking at taking this further. So I've gone 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So the next thing I've got is I've gone from 0 to minus 1. Now I need to think about this here. What is the pattern? Well, remember, I'm dividing by 2 each time. Okay? So this is going to be 1 divided by 2, which is equal to a half, so 1 over 2. Okay? Divided by 2 each time. And my next one, let's have a look at 2 to the power of minus 2. Or 2 to the power of negative 2. This is going to be equal to half of a half. So if I've got half and I'm dividing in half, this is going to be the same as 1 over 4. A half of a half is a quarter, isn't it? Okay. Now, there is another way you can write this. This here can be written as 1 over... What's another way of writing 4 as a power of 2? Well, we saw this here, didn't we? We know that 4 is the same as 1 over 2 squared. Okay. And I'm going to take this a little bit further. I'm going to do 2 to the power of negative 3 now. So what's half? What's quarter divided by 2? Well, a quarter divided by 2 is 1 over 8. And this one here, we can write 8 here as a 2 to the 3. We saw that, didn't we? So this is the same as saying 1 over 2 to the power of 3. You might start to see the pattern. This is, when I've got a negative, 1 over 2 to the 1. 2 to the minus 2 is 1 over 2 to the 2. 2 to the minus 3 is the same as 1 over 2 to the 3. Okay, let's do one more. Let's see if we can figure out the pattern now. You might be able to say straight away what this is. So 2 to the power of minus 4. Okay. Now a half of an eighth is 1/16. And do you know where we saw 16? We saw 16 at the top, didn't we, when it was 2 to the 4? This is equal to 1 over 2 to the power of 4. So what's the link here? How can I go? What's the link with the negative? Well, 2 to the power of minus 1 is the same as 1 over 2 to the 1. 2 to the power of minus 2 is the same as 1 over 2 to the 2. Okay. 2 over minus 3 is 1 over 2 to the 3. 2 over minus 4 is 1 over 2 to the 4. So what's happening here? Well, this is what's called a reciprocal. When we've got anything with a negative power, it's the same as 1 over. Okay? So notice 2 to the negative 4 is 1 over 2 to the 4. The 1 over part. Okay? 2 to the power of negative 3 is the same as 1 over 2 to the 3. I would definitely get this down in your notes. Okay? So pause now and get that down. You'll see the pattern. Super. And I'm going to write down a little definition. I'm going to rub this out. Hopefully you paused and not got that down. So the definition here is a negative power means the reciprocal. Now you might say, well, what? A negative power means the reciprocal. Now you might say, what does the reciprocal mean? Well, we just dealt with that. The reciprocal means 1 over. Okay, the reciprocal means 1 over, like this. So if I've got the reciprocal of anything, it means 1 over. Now there is another one of this when we're talking about fractions, but we'll talk about that a little bit later, okay? A negative power means the reciprocal, and the reciprocal means 1 over. I'd get that down in your notes, okay? I'd probably highlight that. It's really important, this bit. And this is the basis of all of this lesson. If you can understand that, this becomes all quite easy. Okay, so hopefully you've got that down. Now let's have a look at some of these then. Now they come up in two ways. Sometimes they say reciprocal and sometimes they write it as a negative power. So I've just done this one here. This is from the GCSE 2013. So this one here is example 1. And it says, write down the reciprocal. Might be a new word, you might not have heard this before. Reciprocal of 5. Now remember, the reciprocal means 1 over. So the reciprocal of 5 is 1 over 5. And that's it, that's your answer. Okay, done. So let's check that answer. 1 over 5, brilliant, nice and easy, if you know how to do it, okay? If you know what the definition is, this becomes really easy. Okay, good. So that was example 1. Let's have a look now at example 2. So now we're dealing with the negative powers, and it says evaluate 3 to the minus 2. Now, remember the negative part of this means 1 over, means the reciprocal. So that's the first thing you need to do. Example 2, do get this in your notes. Okay, so 3 to the power of negative 2, or anything to the power of negative 2, this negative means 1 over, so I get rid of that negative power and I write it as 1 over what it is. So this is the same as saying 1 over 3 squared, like so. The negative means 1 over. Always do that first. And then once you've done that, we can work out what this is. I know that 3 squared means 3 times 3. So this is the same as saying 1 over 9. Brilliant. I'm going to do another one of these, because I think it can be a little confusing. So this next one, 2 to the power of negative 3. Well, remember the negative means reciprocal, which means 1 over. So this is the same as saying 1 over 2 to the 3. And 2 to the 3, we can work that out. Just means 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times by 2 is 8. So this is equal to 1 over 8, like so. Brilliant. Let's just check both those answers. 1 over 9, 1 over 8. Spot on. Okay. So I've got 2 questions there. Have a go at these 2 yourself. So pause now and have a little go at those yourself. I'll make them big for you so you can see. Pause now and have a little go at that. Okay, so let's have a go at both of these together then. So this is example 1, 2, 3, 4 now we've got. Example 4. Hopefully you flew through these. So I've got 9 to the power of negative 2. Remember the negative means 1 over, so this is equal to 1 over 9 squared. We know that 9 squared is 9 times 9, so this is equal to 1 over 9 times 9, which is 81. Negative means 1 over, then we do what it says. Okay, let's have a look at example 5. We should be smashing this now. So I did put this one on purpose because I thought that people might get confused with that negative 1. So 5 to the power of negative 1. Remember, deal with the negative first. Negative means 1 over, so it's going to be the same as 1 over 5 to the power of 1. And anything to the power of 1 is just the same. So 5 to the power of 1 is 1 over 5. So let's check both of those answers. Should have smashed that. So 1 over 81, bingo. 1 over 5, perfect. Spot on. So I've got a couple more for you to have a go at. So I'll make them big. Maybe pause now and have a go at these 2 yourself again. I've just put these on here because I wanted to make sure that you actually understood this. So pause now and have a little go at these 2. Pause now and have a little go at these. Okay, so let's have a look at them together then. I think you should probably be flying through these now. So this is example 6, I think it is. So here we've got 3 to the power of negative 2. Now the negative means 1 over. So this is going to be the same as 1 over 3 to the power of 2. And then we can do that 3 to the power of 2, which is going to be 1 over 3 squared, which is 9. Brilliant. I think we've actually done that, maybe. Okay, example 7. 6 to the power of negative 2. So the negative means 1 over, so it's going to be 1 over 6 to the power of 2. And we know that, the negative means 1 over. 6 to the power of 2 means 6 squared, which is 6 times 6. So that's going to be 1 over 36, like so. Spot on. Perfect. Okay, let's check those answers. 1 over 9, 1 over 36. We're happy with those. Super. Okay, so next stage. Now we've talked about the fact that we've got the reciprocal, and we've actually, this one here is taking it just that little bit further, not too much, but I wanted to put this in here because it does come up. So I've said to you the reciprocal is the same as 1 over, okay? Now 1 over of a fraction means that you flip it. Now I'm going to write this down as a definition. So if I've got A over B, and I'm doing the reciprocal of that, get this down in your notes, reciprocal, this is the same as just flipping that fraction, so B over A. It's just the same as flipping it, but you've got to know that, okay? And we'll prove that to you, just so you know. Let's do the reciprocal, let's do 2 over 5, okay? Now initially I said to you the reciprocal meant 1 over, so if I was to do the reciprocal of this, it's going to be 1 over 2 over 5. Now, you might think to yourself, that doesn't look anything like that. I haven't just flipped it. But you've got to think about way back to the dividing fractions. If I'm doing 1 divided by 2 over 5, which is what I'm doing, 1 over that, this is the same as using KFC or keep flip change. So I keep the first one. Let's put this one here actually. I keep the first one. I change the divide to a times. And then I flip this round, don't I? So it's going to be 5 over 2. And then 1 times by 5 over 2 is 5 over 2. Flipping it round. Now, you don't need to do this every time. This is just like a little proof using dividing fractions. all you need to know, I've actually done the one on here, all you need to know is that when you're doing this, you flip it round. So all you need to do, write for this example 1. So, what example is this? Sorry, example 8, I think this is. How do I always forget? So, the reciprocal, let's get this one down in notes. Reciprocal of 2 over 5 is equal to 5 over 2. That's the only way you need to write it, okay? The reciprocal of 2 over 5 is 5 over 2. That's all you need to know, okay? So, have a go at question 9, example 9 first. That should take literally seconds. Okay, example 9. What is the reciprocal of 4 over 5? Well, the reciprocal of 4 over 5, I'm going to flip it, aren't I? So 4 over 5 is going to be 5 over 4, and that is your answer. You're literally just flipping this fraction. You've got to know that. That's all you need to know. Let's check those two answers. So it should be 5 over 2 and 5 over 4. 5 over 2, 5 over 4. Brilliant. Super. Okay. Now, a little bit more in depth. Now, I've done this one on purpose and made it very similar. So here I've got, this is example 10. And it says 5 over 2 to the power of -1. Now remember that negative means the reciprocal. And the reciprocal of this, of a fraction, means you just flip it. So this is the same as saying the negative means you flip that fraction. Okay? So negative means I flip it. So it's going to be 2 over 5 to the power of 1. And 2 over 5 to the power of 1 is just the same as 2 over 5. So the negative means I flip it. Then I do to the power of 1, which is just 2 over 5. It's very similar, it's just not saying the reciprocal. Okay? Get that one down in your notes. It's really important. If you need to pause, then pause. Okay, let's check that answer. 2 over 5, super. Brilliant. Now I've got a couple of extra ones here that are a little bit trickier. So this one here is example 11. So I've got 4 over 5 to the power of now. Now this is where it's getting a little bit tricky, -2. So I'm going to deal with the negative first, and then I'm going to deal with the power. Okay? So, if I deal with the negative first, the negative means the reciprocal, and the reciprocal of a fraction means that I flip it round like that. So the reciprocal, this negative, means that I flip the fraction. So the first thing I do is I flip the fraction and get rid of that negative, because the negative means that I flip it. So this is going to be 5 over 4, flip, to the power of 2. Okay? And then I deal with the power of 2. Okay? It's very similar to what we were doing before. We do the reciprocal, then we do the power. Now the power of 2 means I square the top and I square the bottom. So when I'm doing this one, 5 squared is going to be 25 all over 4 squared. In fact, I will write that step in just so you've got it. So this is the same as saying 5 squared over 4 squared. 5 squared is 25. 4 squared, 16, like so. And done. Okay? So negative means I flip, then I put the powers on the top and bottom, then I do the powers and square them. Brilliant. So, pause now and have a little go at that one on the right-hand side. Pause now and have a little go at that one on the right. Okay, let's have a go at it together then. So in this case, I've got 1 over 5 to the power of -2. So I'll deal with the negative first. The negative, to remember, means to flip it round. So this is going to be 5 over 1 to the power of 2. Then I'm going to square the top and square the bottom. So 5 squared over 1 squared is equal to 25 over 1. And I can actually do that, can't I? 25 divided by 1 is just equal to 25. And there's your final answer. Brilliant. Super. Okay, hopefully you smashed that. Okay. There we go, 25 over 16 and 25. Brilliant. So that's all the examples. Here we've got some questions. So I'll put these big, make these big for you. So pause now and have a little go at these questions. Pause now. That one at the end is pretty tricky. I'll give you a little hint with that. Trick with that one is to convert it from a mixed number first. Okay, so pause now and have a go at those. Brilliant, I'll pop the answers on. So here's the answer, so mark those in green. Brilliant. So thank you for watching this video on negative indices. Make sure you're having a go at these questions because remember the only way to learn maths is to do it, and have a lovely day.